unnecessary intro song to totally waste your time.
Okay, we got to talk about fame again. I know, listen, I'm going to repeat a lot of shit. It's what happens when you get old. I was thinking about this the other day. Why do old people keep repeating shit? Like my dad would tell the same stories over and over again. It wasn't just like when he was old. It's like my whole life, you know? My dad in his 50s circulated the same stories. I don't know why that is. I think it might be just an artifact of growing older and just having sifted through all the things that are important and the things that aren't important. And so the pile of things that are important actually gets smaller, because when you're young, you think lots of things were important, you know? And when you're older, you realize, no, not important, not important, not important. So the things that the real life lessons or the illustrative stories becomes a smaller pile, and you're actually taking things off that pile. You're not really adding to it because you're sifting through what's important and what isn't important. And I don't know, for me, as I get older, certain things are less and less important, you know? Like I might have wanted to sit around for hours and talk about fashion or, you know, a certain artist or whatever. I guess I still like to do that. But anyway, that's the preamble of why I'm repetitive. I just watched another interview with Kanye West, and it was an uncut thing where, you know, it was one where you might have seen clips of it where he's wearing the black leather KKK uniform, which is interesting because I used a very similar costume in a music video that I filmed for one of my own songs, or I agreed to let somebody else film for one of my own songs, and I never released it, and I'm kind of glad I didn't. And that relates to this subject because there's at one point in this interview, the interview is very interesting. He's not an insane person. What's happening to him is insane. They're trying to make him insane. And it's amazing that he's able to not go insane. But yeah, it's when he's interviewed in that. You'll find it. Maybe I'll link to it. But there's the part that struck me the most really has very little to do with the interview. So it's all one cut. This young guy who scores the interview of his life, and he turns on his camera as he's on his way to the interview because Kanye's got to get on a plane and go to Japan. And so this guy's got the scoop, and he's like, oh, I want to get the cameras rolling. I got the microphones on now, while he's in traffic on the way to Chateau Marmont, you know? And he's nervous. And his cameraman crew, he's got like 2 people with him, a driver. And I can tell he's nervous, and I'm thinking, God, this reminds me of going to my photo shoots and, you know, hanging out with my famous friends and just that LA traffic. And I was just kind of feeling that same kind of feeling. I was like, oh man, I recognize that feeling, and I kind of got sick in my stomach because of it, right? But anyway, a little twinge. So they go up to this hotel room, and I'm kind of smelling the smells of Chateau Marmont. I've been there, never stayed there, but I've been up to the hotel rooms, and, you know, I've been to dinners there and with all the famous people around. And there's this weird sick feeling that happens in the face of fame and famous people, that this weird nervousness. Anyway, the interview happens. He says all this stuff that's absolutely dead on. He's absolutely in control of his own mind. He's totally self-aware, self-deprecating. And as far as I can tell, he's dishing the truth about reality from his point of view. And it's enjoyable and remarkable because, look, I do art too. So I get the whole thing. I opted out. I opted out of that life. And part of it is this reason. So at the end of the interview, wrapping up, he takes off his KKK outfit, and he only has one little bag, and with a game controller, his phone's in a game controller, you know. So it sounds like he rented 3 or 4 rooms in Chateau Mama. I don't know if he stayed there or if he just rented it for the interview or for the day or whatever. Because at one point he takes a phone call and he says, send them to room 59. He's in room 56. I'm thinking, oh, okay, so he didn't rent just one of these little rooms. By the way, one of the other things is the rooms in Chateau Marmont are just really boring looking. There's like absolutely nothing special about the rooms. That's kind of striking because, hotels with such a legendary name, you'd think they'd have a legendary vibe or anything. But no, it's just standard, boring hotel, nothing special about it vibe. Anyway, I'm beating around the bush. But as he's leaving, they're all packing up and they keep the cameras rolling because they realize that, why wouldn't you? It's smart, And out in the hallway are these 3 very LA looking white people, 2 white ladies with sunglasses on, and a flamboyantly gay man wearing the stupidest outfit you ever saw in your life, this oversized suit. He looks like somebody wearing, he looks like a child wearing a Hillary Clinton pantsuit, But I just recognize this frail, gay, stylist type of guy. And they're sitting out, and I'm going, what are they fans? Are they what? What are they? Well, it becomes apparent, and he has to drop his bag, and he starts to take out the KKK uniform and give it back to him. I was like, oh, it's a stylist. He sourced them. They're the ones that either had it made or found it for him, and he's giving it back to them. But the part that struck me the most was the 3 of them and their grins, and they're smiling. This awkward meeting out in the hallway. Kanye is having to put his bag down, give it back, and they're all just nervously smiling. Nervous, smiling. There's no reason why 3 of them need to be there. Only one person needed to go get that bag, get that outfit back. But 3 of them showed up, And just like with the guy doing the interview, there was 3 of them. There could have been 4. Kanye, interestingly, didn't have any staff around him. None. And I was like, not surprised by that at all. Because I roll the same way. I don't want to have extra people with me. Other people surround themselves with people to make them feel important or whatever. And not me. You put more people with me and that's going to make me feel anxious and lonely, and disconnected. When I'm by myself, none of that's there. But anyway, I'm watching this and I'm going, oh, and I just get this creepy feeling, the same feeling, and it just comes flooding back into my body, that feeling of being around a famous person. It's just the worst feeling. It's not a good feeling. When a famous person walks in the room, it's not a good feeling. The attention goes to them. The energy all gets sucked into their vortex. And for me, it creates this incredible sense of loneliness and isolation. There's this draw to just get the fuck away. Like, that's the feeling. It's like, I don't need to be here. What the fuck am I doing here? Am I just here because a famous person's here? Like, that's so gross. It's so gross to want to be in an environment because a person is famous. to want to be there in their orbit. It's this feeling of, please, sir, give me a scrap of food. I need to be here. I need to make myself feel important by being around somebody who's important, And because I had famous friends, I would feel like that a lot. They'd invite me to go somewhere and I'd show up, but then it was always this battle. Why the fuck am I here? Are we even really friends? This is all in my mind. Of course, I'm trying to just be a regular friend, but you can't avoid the fact that your friend is famous. And the people around you, if you're with them, are all looking at them and feeling that weird feeling of being around somebody famous. And you're trying to turn it off. You're trying to go, no, this is just a friend. It's not a big deal. But you can't avoid it. You go to breakfast, you're sitting at a thing. All the people around are, oh, is that, and you can feel it. Everybody's looking out the corner of their eye. Everybody's doing the same fucking thing. They're all trying to pretend like the famous person isn't there. They're all putting on the show. So it becomes impossible to just relax. Like even when I'd stay at these friends' houses, and obviously there's nobody around that gives a shit. You're just in their house. That feeling just pervades. This might just be me. Maybe other people can just completely relax, but for me, it's just like, it's the power imbalance. That's what it is. It's the imbalance of power, And that's not to say that if you're around a famous person, you don't have power. You do have power. You'll always have your power, But when you're in an environment where if there's a dispute, you won't get a fair shake. There's no way you're going to get a fair shake. If you're in a room and somebody's famous and you're not famous and you're around there, if you have a disagreement with the famous person, I'm a guy, I can't keep my mouth shut anyway. I think there's a reason why some of these famous people wanted to maintain friendships with me, because I just say what I think, despite whatever the consequences are going to be. And but there's a feeling that if there's a real dispute, all of those people that are, because here's another thing, is like famous people vouching for you. If you have a famous person, I kind of touched on this in the last recording, and that is, if you go out somewhere and you have a beautiful girl with you, more beautiful girls want to pay attention to you. If you have 3 beautiful girls, 10 beautiful girls want to pay attention to you. It's the same with famous people. It's even double that. If you go somewhere with a famous person and that famous person likes you, the people watching can see that. They can see that the famous person likes you. So you're getting vouched for by that famous person. And all of a sudden people are going, well, who's this person? Thinking about you. They must be pretty fucking cool if the famous person is looking at them with puppy dog eyes, But even that creates this environment of, you get a vicarious secondhand version of, I'm going to suck up to you. What I'm saying is, like, if you go and you're the friend of a famous person, all the people in their orbit, the suck-ups, the assistants, the record company people, the stylists and whatever, they will all smile and treat you like, they're like, well, any friend of XYZ person is a friend of mine, But that is so fake, is so fragile. At any second, if that famous person has a problem or disagreement with you, they are all on that person's side, unless you become more famous. If you become more famous than that person, then they're all on your side. There's no loyalty. It's all about the power. And there's just no other way to parse that out than with fame. At least with CEOs and, there's a lot of really rich, powerful players that are anonymous when they're walking down the street because nobody knows what they look like. Like, who knows what Matt Groening looks like from The Simpsons? He's in that world, but nobody knows what he looks like. How many of you would recognize the head of Sony Pictures? I don't even know his name. Probably some Japanese guy. You wouldn't know if you were sitting next to him at a restaurant. You'd have no idea. Somebody would have to tell you. But not with famous people, not with, movie stars or whatever. So anyway, that sick feeling, that sick feeling, and I've said it before, but fame is a disease that it's malignant and it affects everybody in a room instantly. Talk about wearing a mask. Geez, you just gotta stay the fuck away from famous people. Because I was thinking about that during the interview. I was thinking, I got a lot in common with Kanye West, personal views, many different ways that I've expressed my art, the buttons that I push. I mean, come on, my image of me hanging on a cross as Sasquatch in blackface, in Home Depot. Most people didn't get, because I tinge my photographs or my art pieces with this kind of green gold thing. It doesn't look exactly like blackface because it's kind of got a green tint. But yeah, it was me hanging on a cross in blackface, nude, with my wiener out in Home Depot, glued to the cross, by the way, with liquid nails. So I'm very familiar with pushing the buttons and thinking of imagery that is controversial and, shocking and funny at the same time. So all that stuff I vibe with Kanye. And again, I don't really know his music. I've heard pieces. It doesn't really resonate with me at all. But anyway, I'm getting off track because I really wanted to make this about just that creepy, inescapable feeling of fame. So when I see people who are famous or are on their way or seeking it out or they're around it, I don't admire them. I feel sorry for them, you know? Like, for example, I toured the world with this band that got really big. They became friends of mine long before they got big. And then they got mega famous, and they invited me and asked me to come on a world tour with them. And I said, okay, I will. But I got to have something to do. So I appointed myself a videographer just because of what I'm talking about. This idea of being somewhere just because, being part of an entourage, that to me is one of the most corny, desperate, ugly, I don't know. There's nothing about it that I like. So I gave myself a job. I said, no, I'm going to videotape stuff. I'm going to do behind the scenes stuff, documentarian style. And, that way at least I'm not just hanging out. Because there's no fucking way I'm just going to fucking hang out, So when I would go to backstage at Saturday Night Live or Conan show or whatever, I have my camera, but they banned cameras in the buildings. And I'm like, fuck, if there's no camera, I don't need to be here. I do not need to be here. So I kept my camera anyway. I just promised that I wouldn't film anything, but I kept filming things anyway. One day I'll maybe, I put a little piece of tape over the red light and just kept my camera on and going down by my side. Everybody knew. But anyway, the point of that is I had to have something to do or I didn't want to fucking be there at all. I barely wanted to be there with the camera because there is something very humiliating. In fact, I felt the same way even as a cameraman in those situations. I remember backstage at one of these New York shows, the Rose Ballroom or something, the band is at their top of their game and in the dressing room, there's Rick Ocasek because he produces, what's her name? The Wind Beneath My Wings. What's that lady's name? Bette Midler, Cyndi Lauper, I don't know, just a whole bunch of famous people back in the dressing room. I can't remember if it was after the show or before the show. And I'm on tour. I don't really have anywhere else to go. I could have gone on a walk or whatever. But again, the other part of this is this shameful feeling of wanting to be there. Of like, I don't know. It's just so, to me, it's so icky to want to be around people just because they're famous. And that's not true a lot of times. Like a lot of my famous friends, the reason why I'm friends with them is because we have mutual interests. We both make music. We both have the same kind of attitude about things. So it's like plumbers you're not going to be surprised when a plumber's hanging around with another plumber, or a mechanic hanging around with a mechanic. So you shouldn't be surprised that an artist is hanging around with an artist. But nobody will ever believe you. The other thing that is true too is that I don't think that your average person ever believes an artist when they say they don't want to be famous or they don't like famous. Like even for me saying this, I can feel a few of your eyes rolling. Oh, really? You chose not to pursue fame. You turned off the spigot. Okay. Yeah, I get that. It's a people aren't going to believe you when you decide to say, no, I was at the top of my game and I stopped. I said, no, I don't want this. I don't want this. And it's because of these creepy feelings that you get when you're around famous people. And it's not just the famous people, but they get affected by it. I was getting to a story about this, So I appointed myself the videographer, went to Europe, did all this other shit. I'm pretty much my own dime. Occasionally they'd say, "Oh, we have an extra room in the hotel. We'll book you a room, or whatever." And I'd be like, I don't need that. I can. I even volunteered to sleep on the bus because, hell, I sleep in my van now. I don't need a lot of fuss. So I pretty much, I didn't pay for the whole thing, but I sustained myself as much as I could. But you got to remember, on these things, there's dinners every night with other famous people. So they're picking up the bill on a lot of shit because they're picking it up for everyone. It'd be weird to be like, there's a table of 20 people and you're the one that goes, I insist on paying for my sliver of this grand meal. So you're obviously not writing a check for the bus rides and stuff like that. But I paid my own airfare to Europe, And anyway, I'm videotaping and all this stuff. And so I have, hundreds of hours on my own. This was I wasn't on salary. I insisted. At one point, I remember I think it might have been even in that same moment in New York, where one of their managers came to me and said, we need to talk about the footage and what's going to happen with it. And I said, well, what do you mean? And he goes, well, we need to figure out, the band's really happy you're doing it. And I'm like, first of all, ew, creepy. Are you speaking on behalf of the band? Did you guys have a meeting about me? I hated that feeling. Oh my God. That was one of the worst feelings. That they all had to have a meeting outside of my presence about my about my existence within the realm, They're like, we need to have a meeting about it. I said, well, look, here's the deal. I'm capturing this footage. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. If anything, it's mostly just an excuse to be here. I just was frank and told them what I said. It's an excuse for me to be here. I said, I don't want to sign any contracts because I don't want to bring contractual things into friendship. I just don't want to do that. So I don't want to do that. I said, I can go home at any time. And he's like, oh, okay. And nothing ever happened with it. It's like, no, not signing anything. You can send me home. I'll gladly go home. It'd be probably a relief to not have to be here anymore. I'd miss hanging out, and Lord knows it's an interesting experience, and I'm down for things that are interesting. But quite frankly, it's uncomfortable. You know. Anyway, I wasn't saying that as a negotiation tactic, but it is a negotiation tactic to say, look, I like being here, but not that much. Not so much that I would sign a contract or become an employee. There's absolutely no way ever, ever, ever that I will be employed by a friend of mine. There's no way I'm going to shift that dynamic further than it already is. It's already shifted weird, you know? So anyway, it didn't matter. It didn't change anything. I didn't sign anything, you know? And I continued, went to Europe, blah, 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 blah. Tour ends, and they say, hey, man, we're releasing our live DVD of the tour, and it'd be cool to have footage of all those scenes, that we captured all over the world. I said, oh, okay, I'll put something together, you know? I'll put something together. I'll do a little vignette for each band member, and I did. It was the first time I ever really edited stuff. This is way back, and I'm using Final Cut Pro back in the early 2000s and shit. It took me a long time. I didn't like doing it. I don't like editing. I like shooting things, but editing video, it causes a lot of stress for me. So I delay it and I put it off. But again, around the end of it, so in the meantime, I make friends with this other guy who's literally a Hollywood producer, produces big films. What's it, Sorkin? What's that guy's name? He did The Girlfriend Experience. He did that Russian remake of the space movie with George Clooney in it. Anyway, for whatever reason, this guy comes into my orbit and becomes my friend. He takes me to dinner at Robert Redford's brother's house, and I meet the guy that designed Star Wars. And this guy just takes a real fancy to me, and he seems to like me. He's inviting me places to meet Anthony Bourdain and all this shit. And I like him. He's a nice guy. He's not probably somebody I would totally hang out with normally. A little bit older, balder, But anyway, I ask him, I go, well, I'm doing this thing. I don't know what to charge. I mean, I don't want to charge my friends anything, but if they're going to be generating money, I mean, what's this footage worth? What's the value money? I told him that, I have X number of hours, hundreds of hours of footage of this stuff, and I'm trying to get his idea because he's a movie producer. So I'm asking him, what's this footage worth? They want to share ownership with me. And I'm like, okay, well, since I funded it, I'd be gladly to sell you a share in it, and I'm just trying to figure out what it's worth. What's the going rate? He gives me a number, and I go back to the band with his number, and I get a call from one of my friends in the band, and he's freaking out. He is just freaking out. How dare you? That's my life, and you're trying to charge me X number of money. That's my life on that thing. I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? It's not just your life. That's my life, too. Are you forgetting that I was there? Are you forgetting that I put my life on hold to film your life, which was also my life? I'm behind the camera. I experienced those things. So this is part of the thing that I'm trying to describe about how fame fucks you up. It's like, this poor fella, a friend of mine, he didn't have any clue about my life. It was all his life, because the whole structure around him and that band, this is your thing, this is yours, You're the famous one. As if it's some sort of honor they're bestowing upon me to let me be. That's when it all came out. I didn't realize it. But in that moment where he's freaking out and just, this is my life, and how dare you charge me a fee? And I'm like, fuck, dude, what do you want me to do? Your fucking lawyer is sending me shit, wanting to buy this footage or wanting to share ownership of this footage. you know, so that you can use it. I'm just trying to fucking figure out how do I, what do you want me to do? Just give it to you? Like, how on earth do you think that you're entitled to this footage for free that I took? You're not even thinking about how awkward it was for me to be there. If you're going to get paid for this shit, I'm going to get paid for it. You think that you should get paid. You're negotiating for a rate with your record company on this live DVD, but you're thinking I'm supposed to just give it? Like, thank you for inviting me. It's like, fuck you, dude. Fuck you. I didn't say this because, anyway, this is part of the other part that's disgusting about the feeling is that you're thinking, I don't like confrontation that much anyway. Believe it or not, I don't. But I'm kind of like feeling like I want to pee my pants when I'm listening to this thing blow up. Because I was trying to go with good faith, you know, consulting a producer friend of mine, you know, who pays for footage and stuff like that. The number was high, but not in Hollywood terms. It wasn't high, you know. I'm like, if you want a footage, anyway. But the part I'm talking about is just the sense of entitlement that grows like a cancer with fame. Because you got to remember, these people are surrounded by yes people. If he were to have consulted with his orbit at that point, or these people consulting with their orbit would confirm their position no matter what it was. It's not fair that he's trying to charge. There'd be yes, you're right, that guy's a jerk. Blah, blah, blah. There's no fairness. Nobody wants to be fair. It's just all sucking up to the famous person in the room. And so I knew that in this situation. So I was just like, I don't know what to tell you, dude. I don't give a shit about this fucking footage. You know, I don't. But it's also not right for you to just expect me to hand it to you. I don't expect you to give me anything ever. Why would you expect me to not look after myself? That's gross. That's gross. Shame on you, you know? Anyway, our friendship never really recovered after that, you know? I'll be honest. I mean, we kind of did, like, hi, went to his wedding afterwards. I don't know, maybe his wedding was before, I can't remember. But it never really recovered because the whole thing was revealed to me. I was like, oh, I get it. You don't see me as an equal. You see me as a person that you've done the gracious favor of allowing me in your universe. Go fuck yourself. How about that? Go fuck yourself. If you think of me that way, you can go fuck yourself. I don't care how much I love you. You are my friend, but you can go fuck yourself until you get your head straight about who I am in your life. And it ain't your fucking subservient servant, you motherfucker. You know? So that's how that ended. And that the whole band is kind of like, I was friends with each person in the band equally, but, you know, once you have crossed one member, then they all have to unite, and then it just got awkward. So the whole thing kind of fell apart after that thing. I negotiated with the lawyer. You know, I talked to him about it. I said, well, maybe this will work. Maybe that'll work. Maybe just pay for my expenses, the stuff I went out of pocket to do this thing, you know. And he said, okay, I'll send you some contracts. I said, all right, I'll look them over. They sent me the contracts. I looked at them, and I said, no, I'm not signing these things. And I just waited, but the check came anyway. I got the check anyway. So it wasn't I got kind of screwed. I mean, I should have probably got a point on that. Anyway, it happened before with that band too. I mean, it really did. One of the other guys. It's like back before, it was right when they were getting famous in 1995. They asked me to design an album cover for an underground secret single. And I did, and I designed a logo that was all fancy, and they said, hey, could we put this on T-shirts? I said, yeah, how much? I said, this is my fee. And I said, oh, that's too much. We can't afford it yet. We haven't been paid by the record label and whatever, because they hadn't yet crescendoed. I said, well, no problem. Just don't pay me anything. I'll just take this amount of points on your sales. Well, they blew up. They sold tons of those things, and what could have been them buying the rights for $600 ended up after the tour ended up being a lot more than that. And the guy in the band that was over that was tried to come back and negotiate the rate down. And that should have been my first clue. It's like, what do you mean? We agreed to this. I agreed to save you money on the front end because you couldn't afford to pay me. I said, I'll take a percentage instead, you know? But then he tried to talk me out of my percentage. I said, no, just fucking pay me the percentage we agreed on. What's wrong with you? Why would you even ask? That's so weird. Like, why don't you think that I deserve that? Why do you think that you deserve that? You obviously came to me to get what I have to boost your image. And now it has worked. Just pay me. Don't fucking try to talk me out of it, you little fucking weasel. You know? You know? But, you know, he's the one guy in the band that I was never really super friends with. But the drama of just fame. The fame complicates everything. It makes everything that could be just normal into this weird fucking power dynamic. I guess. I mean, you already have that in your regular relationships in life. You know, there's always this struggle for power, and I feel like I avoid people in general because there is that inherent struggle and power that I feel people trying to do with me. I don't feel like I do that to other people. Maybe they feel like I do. I try not to do it because I just try to leave. You know, if I feel like in any way I'm trying to manipulate somebody, I don't like the feeling, and I'm like, I just got to get out of here. I got to go home. Goodbye. You know, I don't want to be part of this. I don't want to control you. Please don't try to control me. Please don't try to tell me what to do, when to do, or how to do anything. I just can't stand that feeling, which is why I can't really be around people. I don't mind when my dog tries to manipulate me into giving her a hot dog because it's a very simple exchange. Oh, you're hungry. I know how to open the fridge. You're gracious. Not pouty, not resentful. You know, you have gratitude. You're not trying to fuck me over. And worse than that is you're not having conversations behind my back. Your dog isn't going to have a secret meeting to say, well, hey, what are we going to do about Merkley? We got to get him on a leash somehow. Get him on. That's what it is. The fucking leash. That's what that Kanye video is about. It's a fucking leash. People want to get you on a fucking leash. You know, and fame is this weird tool they use to get it. And I don't know why people agree. I don't know why. I just told you that the contracts came on that thing, you know, and I didn't sign it. I didn't send it back, you know, but I still got the check. That's the kind of the way I've always done things. Like when it never worked for me. In all my time, people try to hire me for a video, hire me for this or hire me for that. I'm like, we're doing this on a fucking handshake, okay? I don't want your fucking lawyer sending me a fucking 10-page motherfucking piece of shit thing with all this hidden language in there that I gotta go over and read, and I gotta go, you know, I just fucking hated that shit. So even when I was a concert promoter, I was known for never sending back contracts. You know, agents would get, when are you going to send back the contracts? Hey, so change the subject. I never sent back contracts. I always paid what I promised to pay, you know, but I always just resented this because you've never seen a contract that didn't have unnecessary shit in there. These lawyers, they're fucking evil. That's another thing Kanye was talking about on this interview. It's like they intentionally make the contracts so that you can't read them or understand them. That's what legalese is. It may as well be Greek. You know, it's there to fucking loophole you and to get you to sign something. They tell you not to read it. They literally, have you ever bought a house or anything big? Oh, just initial here, initial. What does it say? Don't read it, doesn't work, standard stuff. Fuck you. Fuck you. You're getting me to sign something you know I don't want to sign. You know? Fucking hate that shit. I'm not signing your fucking contracts. I started doing this thing where they'd send me a contract And once it was electronic, I would just take the PDF, make my copy paste, make the same PDF, name it the same fucking thing, delete everything that I didn't want in it. Digitally sign that thing without something that looked like my signature, you know, and then I'd send back a contract that was my contract without telling them that I changed anything, that I took out a bunch of stuff and they just wouldn't notice. I think now they've caught up to that, the technology, but I just delete shit that I didn't like. I'm not doing this, not giving you all rights in perpetuity throughout all universes that exist and now will ever exist. I'm like, go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. Why are you trying to get one over on me? But yeah, that fame machine, boy, it really does it because, like I said, all the managers, all the lawyers, they all get in there to support that. And by the way, they're all fucking over the artists too. So it's not like they're just fucking over me. That lawyer, he didn't really care that I didn't sign that shit. He probably didn't even care that it's like it's such small potatoes for him that he had to write the letter to me and send it out and try to get me to sign it. But he doesn't care. He's getting his fucking 15% anyway. Or 25%, I don't know. Way too much. Can you imagine? You're just getting paid while somebody else is going on tour. Somebody else is putting their heart on the line with their stupid songs and getting up there on stage and doing all this shit. And you're just sitting back there sending out a contract here or there, a secret coded language. And you're getting fucking 15% of what they're making, which is a fucking lot of money. Just because you speak the coded language and you learned all the loopholes and you figured out how to trick people into deals they might not want to be part of. But I'm looking out for you. Really? Really? No, you're not, you fucking asshole. You just want your goddamn boat. Anyway. Fame. That's kind of how I feel about it. I'm sad that I have old friends of mine because, there's this other thing too as you get older. You can't make new old friends. So to me, it's sad for me that I can't really just be friends with all those people anymore. The memories of friendship are still there. And there's no official falling out. But we went our separate ways after all that stuff. With the occasional, hey, what's up? If I'm in LA, come by, high five, And it sucks because when you're young and you're having these adventures, you kind of want to be able to share them. I'm really happy that I'm reconnecting with people that I knew in elementary school. That's amazing. Connecting over those kinds of memories. But it would be nice to be able to connect over world tour and stuff too. Saturday Night Live and dinner with Jack Black, But man, when the tables are turned, or not turned, what's the thing I'm looking for? When there's an imbalance there, it just makes it too hard. When the scales aren't balanced and everybody in somebody else's orbit is, here's the other thing. You gotta know this too. Like when all these hangers on, Kanye was talking about this in his video too, but all these hangers on that come in and they're your friend and blah, 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 and they're, and you're helping them and you're doing all this shit. If you're on the outs with a famous person, again, their whole orbit turns against you because they actually want you out of the way. Who's this fucking Merkley guy? He's taking up oxygen. He's taking up space. If he wasn't talking, if he wasn't at this dinner and people weren't laughing at his jokes, they might be laughing at my jokes. So they want you gone. These Hollywood people, they want you out of the way. There's always 25 fucking people trying to get through you to that spot. And it is ugly. And it's not beautiful. It's not wonderful. It's not like I'm just about ready to say, it's not like going home to your family. I don't really have a family to go home to. It's like this in my family. I get it. I get it, guys. The problem is me. I get it. Okay. I'm the fucking problem. It's not the world. But I imagine some of you people do have good families that weren't divorced multiple times and doesn't have thousands of layers of stepkids and half brothers and sisters and shit. And you can just go home and be with your brothers and sisters and your parents and feel comfortable and loved, you know? You probably have that. And that's amazing. If you have that, just know that those of us who don't admire it, you know? It's amazing, you know? Don't take it for fucking granted. Those of us fucking weirdos that are chasing around all this stuff I just said, you know, that's the sad part about the Kanye thing. Is I think Kanye was moving into trying to have a family, and now he just wants that. They're using that thing, the thing that he actually knows is real, his actual children, and they're using that as a tool to get him to do what they want him to do, you know? It's kind of his own fault, you know? Shouldn't have fucked a Kardashian. The writing was on the wall, you know? But I ain't gonna kick him when he's down. It's evil what they're doing. It's evil what that industry does. It's evil what humanity does to fame, to famous people and around fame, how humanity props it up. I'm glad to see that it's happening less and less. Like, it's inspiring to see that nobody gives a fuck about a famous person's opinion anymore. You know, you can't just fart out, oh, vote for Kamala. It doesn't work anymore. I love that. So there is this force in the world that seems to be mitigating that. And hopefully maybe some of Kanye's stuff is also mitigating that. His expose of Hollywood and how it's working and how just evil they are to keep people in line. You know, the things that they do to isolate you and make you feel less than or worthless. You know, that's what I mean. I experienced it on such a small level, and I'm an idiot, but I'm a quick learner. It doesn't take long for me to go, nope, I don't want this. I don't want this. I'm out. You know, but the problem is with famous fucking people. This is the other part of fame is like you can't just flush it out of your mind, because if your friends, God forbid, stay famous, you're going to see them. You're going to hear them on the fucking radio and see them on the TV, see them on the newsstands. Oh, there they are. Oh, there they are. Oh, there they are. Power imbalance. I have to think about them 50 fucking times before they think about me once. That is not good. That is not a healthy relationship. In a healthy relationship, they think about you. You think about them every once in a while. You make a phone call. Hey, great. Not you think about them. You're reminded of them 1,000 times. I might have told that story before, but when some of my friends first started getting famous, I made a joke. I said, look, you guys are blowing up. I'm seeing you everywhere. This isn't fair. Every time I see your fucking face, I'm sending you an email. So you're going to get pinged. If I get pinged about you, you're going to get pinged about me. And I did that for about 2 months, and it was a big fun joke, you know. But then I realized it's not sustainable. Because even then it was just, I'm not supposed to think of any friend this much. None. Even if somebody's living, hell, that's the reason why I don't live with people, is because I don't want to think about them all the time. If somebody's in the other room, I'm thinking about them. If I walk into the kitchen and there are dishes in the sink, I'm thinking about them more than I want to think about them. You know? Anyway, thanks for being my psychiatrist. Or wait, a psychologist. You're not prescribing me any drugs. And I wouldn't take them if you did. Thanks for listening.